Create this lettering style on Procreate in few easy steps. First, we will prepare a background, put some tiles, get a color palette, then stamp a letter, make it pop by adding some shadows, lights, ceramic textures, ornaments, and then paint floral backgrounds and add some final touch-ups. That's it. Now, you can use your own brushes to follow along, but if you want the ones that I'm using, now is the time to pause this, head to shoutbam.com, sign up to our community newsletter and download the freebie. You can find the link in the description below. Okay, less talk and more drawing. Let's do this. So now that we have the brushes, I'm gonna tap on the plus sign and I'm gonna create a new canvas. So if you've checked any of my tutorials before, you know that I'm in Europe and I always use a canvas that is 30 centimeters width times 22 centimeters height. DPI always gonna be 300 or higher. Now let's see first the freebie and what you got. So you have here the alphabet that you'll be choosing one letter or several ones if you want, and then these textures to get the porcelain effect that we're gonna be using today. Now select the wall texturizer and we're gonna give a nice wall texture in the background. Now select a new layer and go back to the brushes and select the tile maker. Now on this new layer, spray some tiles. Now here, I'm just gonna keep some of the tiles in the middle to act as a second background, but you can see that they're a little bit transparent and we see the background through them. So now I'm gonna go to the selection tool. I'm gonna select rectangle and I'm gonna just select the tiles that I wanna keep. Now, once the selection is done, I'll go to the panel, down, invert, 3 fingers down and cut. Now I'm just gonna clean this selection by doing the same but going to the sides and just putting out these little black joints. So do it to all the sides so it looks a little bit more realistic. There is for sure a bunch of other ways to do this, but I found out that this was quite an easy one. So let's do this in the right as well. Okay. Now we are going to center these tiles in the middle of the composition, and for that we are going to go in the panel up to the free transform tool. I'm gonna keep this two selected on and I'm just gonna move it until I see these yellow lines. So center horizontally and vertically. Now with the tile selected, go to the selection tool, automatic, press outside the tiles, invert, create a new layer and drop a white color in the middle. Now you can see that we don't see the wall through the tiles anymore and we just keep the tile texture. Now we're gonna add some shadows. So with this square selected, now duplicate it and then to the one at the bottom, select the black color, drop it inside. And now with the free transform, I'm just gonna move this to any of the sides. You select where the light is coming from. Now I'm gonna go to adjustments, directional blur, and I'm just gonna add a little direction here. Now I'm just going to add a bit of a Gaussian blur in adjustments as well, so this looks a little bit more realistic. Okay, so now I'm gonna select the transform tool, and with the warp I'm just going to finish adapting this shadow. So I'm just gonna make sure that it doesn't show on the left and top. So yeah, something like that will work. Now I'm just gonna move it a little bit around and I'll go back to the opacity, just probably put it a little bit down, 40-50%. So okay, so now we have the background done and we are ready to start doing some letters. Now select all these layers, group them, and you can rename them and you can put background so it's a little bit more ordered for after. Now select a new layer and go to the alphabet. Select one of the letters and now we are going to stamp it on the new layer. For this, again, you can select one letter. If you want to complicate it a little bit more, you can follow the same steps and put a whole word. But personally, I would keep it simple. So now I'm opening Pinterest and I'm dragging it to the left so I get this split screen and I see the reference. Now I'm going to actions, add, and I'm inserting the photo that I previously saved on my iPad. Now I'm gonna create a color palette out of this. So I'm going to select the darkest blue, or the one that I want to be the darkest, and then I'm gonna go to colors, palette, create a new palette, and then I'm just gonna add it here in the left. So now I'm gonna select something in the middle, so not the lighter blue but something in the middle, so this will work. And now finally I'm gonna select a light blue. So now I have these 3 tones of blue that I'm going to be using. Now I'll do something similar with a contrasted color, in this case the yellow. So I'll get one that is a little bit in a darker spectrum, so this one will work. I'm just gonna add it here. And now a brighter tone. I'm not gonna do 3, I'll just keep it simple with 2. Now I'm gonna select one more color, some green, and I'll just put it next to the blues. Okay, so that's gonna be my color palette. Now I'm closing Pinterest because I have a clear idea of what I'm gonna do, but you can keep it on if you want for future reference. Now I'm selecting a white color and the letter Y, and I'm just gonna stamp it on a new layer in the middle. Move it somewhat around the middle. Now go back to Layers panel, and we are going to duplicate this layer. So tap on duplicate, and then on the one down I'm just gonna drop a blue color, something like, yeah, the one in the middle will work. And now I'm just gonna move this around. You can go left, right, whatever you feel that you want your projection to be. Keep it simple, just going down to the right or down to the left, and that's it. Now select a calligraphy native brush from Procreate. You can go under the calligraphy brushes that you have in Procreate, something simple. And now join each corner of the main letter to its 3D counterpart. Now here I'm going to bring down the opacity of the first letter so I see a little bit clearer the corners. So now I need a couple more, but you see what I'm doing, right? So corner, and then just covering it. Okay, so this is the last one. And now I'm just gonna bring the opacity back up again. Okay, so now I have the main 3D structure. Now I'm going to select the white letter, so the original one. I'm gonna duplicate it. And then select the one at the bottom. Go up to adjustments and Gaussian blur. Add a little bit of a Gaussian blur. You're gonna see that the corners are getting a little bit blurred out. And now in order to make it more visible, I'm just gonna duplicate this a couple times, join the layers, and now I'm gonna tap on it and add a clipping mask. This Gaussian blur is gonna be great, so now our corners are not super sharp, but rather rounded. Now select the eraser and go back to our brushes and select the one at the bottom that says soft shadow. Now I'm just gonna erase a little bit of this Gaussian blur in parts where I think it would be a little bit sharper. This is totally subjective, so you don't have to follow the same. Depending on what kind of letter, it's gonna be different. So this is just me. But like, for example, here in the middle, it's obvious that you have to erase this little part, for example. Okay, a little bit here as well. And I'm pretty much done with this step. Okay, now let's do a cast shadow. So duplicate the main letter and then just drop a dark color in one of them. It doesn't matter which one. Now this layer, I'm just gonna move it to the bottom of the letter and I'm gonna duplicate it again. Now I hide one of them and then I'm gonna move the bottom one to the opposite side of the 3D part. Now go to adjustments and motion blur and distort it in this diagonal direction. Now move it a little bit until it looks closer to the letter. Something like that will work. And now I'm just gonna go again to adjustments and I'm gonna add a little bit of a Gaussian blur. Now play around with the opacity of this layer until you find that it's a little bit more realistic. Something like that. And now I'm gonna put on that second shadow. I'm gonna move it slightly. This one has to be really close to the 3D part. So something like this even. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of Gaussian blur. This shadow is very important because it's, when the letter touches the wall, it generates a smaller, darker shadow and then a bigger, less dark shadow. So these two are gonna be perfect for adding realism to the piece. Now there's something here that is not working and I should change it, and this is the first shadow that we previously put behind the tiles. So go to the transform tool and tap on flip horizontally. Now the shadow is at the left side, the same as the drop shadow. Perfect. Okay, now it's better. Now I want to get rid of this clipping mask here. So I'm gonna go to the blue layer, tap on it, select, invert, go back to the clipping mask, 3 fingers down and cut. Now when I release the clipping mask, I'm gonna join these 2 layers. So now the Gaussian blur and the main layer are together. Now on top of that main layer, I'm adding a new layer, clipping mask, going to the brushes, and I'm selecting the first brush. Now with a dark color, I'm just spraying a little bit of the texture. I know you don't see it here, but you'll be able to see it in your iPad. And now I'm doing the same with the blue part, new layer, clipping mask, and I'm just adding a little bit of this cracking paint texture. Okay, so now we'll get some shadows done. Go back to the 3D part, add a new layer, automatically it's gonna be a clipping mask, select the darker blue, then the soft shadows, and now go to the selection tool, tap on freehand at the bottom, and select one by one the parts that you wanna add shadows to. So as you can see, I'm gonna add some shadows here at the bottom. So everything gets a new and better dimension. So now I'm selecting another of the parts. And now, without the selection, I think I'm just going to add some shadows here. Remember that if the parts are not super close together, you don't have to add new selections, as I'm doing here. So now here, this is gonna be darker. And I'm pretty much done with the shadows. Now I'm gonna add a new clipping mask on top of these shadows, and I'm gonna do some lighter blue lights. So I'm just going to be spraying this lighter blue next to those blurred corners, just to add a little bit of, these rim lights around it. Now maybe when I'm done with the blue, I'm gonna select a white, and I'm gonna do sort of the same, but maybe more localized. So something like this. And now on the upper side as well. Now this starts looking more realistic, doesn't it? All right, so now at this point, I'm gonna go to the upper letter, to the main letter, select a new clipping mask, and now with a darker white, so some gray color, and also with this soft brush, I'm just gonna add a little bit of gray on the opposite sides of those corners. Okay, so I'm done with the main effects on the letter. Now probably I'm just gonna, perfect it a little bit. Maybe it's a bit too much, but it's fine. So now I'm just going to go back to the tiles adjustments and tap on hue, saturation, and brightness. I'm just gonna add a little bit more brightness to the tiles. And now I'm going to change the color of the main wall background. So go to the wall first texture, and then add a new layer and just drop a yellow color. Here you can just play with modes. I'm gonna play maybe with multiply, and then just play around with colors. For now, I'll leave this orange. Probably I'll change it later. But pretty much done with the main concept of this piece. Now I'm going to do some illustration on top of the letter, and then some illustration on top of the tiles. Oh, please don't mind what I'm doing now. I'm just a perfectionist, and I'm just erasing a bit of the shadow that I did before, but never mind. Now go back to the layers and put a new layer on top of everything. For some reason I already had one, but yeah, if you don't have it, just create a new layer. It doesn't have to be a clipping mask. Now select the brush Porcelain Marker, and here just feel free to add any kind of illustration that probably you remember from your inspiration board or whatever that comes to your mind. Right now here I'm just going to eyeball some nice, maybe some leaves or something like that. You obviously can leave the letter as it was before, so you really don't have to do an illustration, but I thought that it was too white and I just wanted to add something just to make it a little bit, prettier. So yeah, I'll just leave you to it, and I'll see you in a second. Alright, so now I'm pretty much done with these blue decorations. So I'm gonna select a new layer, and then probably with a contrasted color, in my case the yellow, I'm just gonna add some new leaves or dots, or just something just to make it a little bit more interesting. Again, you don't have to do this, but yeah, I'm quite of a maximalist, and I love doing a lot of ornaments all the time. So let's see what looks better. But probably I'll just do some leaves around the same style. And I'll also leave you to it. I'll see you in a second when I start focusing on the background. Okay, so now here I'm just adding some imperfections with the watercolor brush that you have. You, again, can decide if you want to do it or not. And now I'm going to go to the background, select a new layer on top of the background, so under the letter. And then with the same brush, I'm just gonna sketch some of the flowers that I want in the background. This is not a clean version of it. It's just for me to draw the main structure. But it's going to be some basic flowers for sure. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of the skeleton of these flowers. And then probably around, I'm just gonna, do something similar to the style that I used for the ornaments on the letter. I'm just gonna add some leaves, probably like a second flower, and I'm gonna combine all the colors so it looks better, dynamic and rich. Okay, I'll see you in a second. So now that I'm done with the sketch, I'm just going to bring the opacity down. And on a new layer, I'm going to start drawing these flowers using different colors. Okay, so now that I'm pretty much done with the main illustrations, I'm just going to select some of them. So for example, I'll select this yellow one, 3 fingers down, and then duplicate. And then I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger, put it here. Now probably I'll join the layers. And now I'm gonna duplicate this, and then I'm gonna flip it horizontally and vertically using the transform tool, and just move some of the elements around. Okay, that's going to work. Now maybe this little part as well, I'm gonna duplicate it. Maybe I'll put it 3 times here and there so it looks more balanced. And again, don't be afraid of the blank spaces. Sometimes, if you know me, sometimes I am. So I'm just gonna fill the space up as much as my gut says so. And probably I'll just add a couple, circles here and there just to fill it up. And I'm done with the piece actually. I'll just perfect it a little bit more, but we are pretty much done here. Now I'm gonna stop talking for 5 minutes and focusing on finishing the piece. See you later. now here's time to change some things that you don't like. So the main thing that probably I dislike a little is the background, so probably I'll put it in blue. It feels stronger to me, so I think I'll leave it like this, probably like a lighter blue or even green. Probably the light blue is going to be better. You can also leave it in white. But yeah, I think I like this one, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. And now I'm gonna select the soft brush again. And the last step is going to be adding some shadows and lights in the background. So let's say it's a little bit dark down. I'm gonna select the mode overlay in here. And now here I'm gonna create a new layer, and then with a white color and the same brush, I'm just gonna add a bit of light up here. I'm gonna also change the mode to overlay or soft light, or really whatever you like. You can even leave it to normal and just bring the opacity down. Alright, we're done. I hope you enjoyed this video and you're ready to draw some awesome porcelain letters. Don't forget to share your results with us over on Instagram so we can share it with the community. Also, consider subscribing and give us a thumbs up if you liked what you've learned. And the last question is, what would you like to learn next? Let us know in the comment section. Well, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Stay colorful. Bye.